Is that the iMovie?
Yes.
Yeah, I knew exactly what that was. That's
Dude,
so sad.
if our intro music was iMovie music,
What a throwback.
that would be amazing.
It'd be so good.
Do, 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 do.
Wow. Okay, man. Hey everyone, this is Future Ethan here. Real quick, I just wanted to interject and say that this is actually part 2 to a 2-part episode. When we were recording, we actually ended up recording for a full hour, and typically we like our episodes to be around a half hour. So if you're confused about where we pick up in this episode, be sure to go back and listen to the part 1 of this little series. In fact, you may want to do that before you continue on with this episode, but if you don't want to, then you do you. I won't tell you how to live your life. But thanks and enjoy.
After Seek, we headed into the summer, and we knew we wanted to do Hello Neighbor 2. We wrote that together this time around. So you'll notice the comedy is more influenced by how I write things.
There's more goofiness.
Rather than just standard, you understood your concept and you delivered, and I was like, let's make a bunch of funny lines.
Yeah.
Let's be funny. And so you can kind of see Hello Neighbor written by you and Hello Neighbor written by us.
By us, yeah, which is interesting. And that's the fun about having a YouTube channel and having so many different videos to pull experience from. We start to see what our style is, what our preferences are.
Yeah.
And that's really helped us going into this production company, I think, for sure.
To understand who has what strengths,
right,
what we can leverage, that sort of thing. But yeah, so check out Hello Neighbor 2. We decided to involve my character's wife. Voiced by me. What is it, Jim and Tom?
Yeah.
And you're Tom, right? And I'm Jim?
Yes.
Because I would say, well, Tom, you're... So I think you were Tom and I was Jim. So Jim's wife, yes, that sounds right, makes a vocal appearance.
And that was our first time using a Blackmagic camera on set.
Yes, and we thought, we were like, I can't wait for Hello Neighbor 2 to be cinematic. Yeah, we used a drone.
I borrowed a buddy's drone, which again didn't
we were
shoot
like,
4K.
This one's going to look so good. It doesn't. I think the first one looks better.
Yeah.
But we were caught on a cold, windy day. First time using the Blackmagic.
Color grading B-roll footage.
Yeah.
I had no idea really what, I don't even think the RP shot in
good
raw.
Friend Jonathan back in it.
Right.
Pitts showed up to...
We brought in Dakota as well.
Brought in Dakota to play that that cameo role that I insisted on, if you remember. I was like, we have to have the Daddy's Home ending where the guy who's even cooler than the cooler
gets one-upped.
Yeah, he gets one-upped at the end. And
so that was Hello Neighbor 2, but I think the big project, we took a look at the first year and we're like, oh, we want to do a big project every year. Yeah. And so that big project for us
Heist was successful for us. Everyone who watched our first year stuff, their favorite thing was the Heist.
And we did a premiere. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah,
we did a live stream premiere. Live stream was everything in 2020 because of all the live events were being shut down. Yep. You did a premiere for Spider-Man, and so that's part of our ethos that we wanted to have
premiere our stuff.
Premieres, yeah. So anyway, we did that virtually, and people loved the projects. So if you were part of that crew, thank you.
Thank you.
You just made that fun for us.
Memories.
And hopefully we can do more of that kind of stuff in the future. But Loop was the big one this year. Yes. I was just inspired to do a time loop of some kind.
Reliving the same day.
Right. And
Groundhog
Day. At first, I wanted to do
Palm Springs.
A drama. I wanted to make it super dramatic, in kind of a weird short film, artsy, fartsy kind of thing.
Yeah, a gritty cop on the grind.
Reliving a really hard day every day. And just trying to get to his wife, I think was the original concept, because at the time, I don't know was I married at that time or was I just engaged?
You would have been coming up on getting married. The summer, that was the summer before you got married.
So
the summer
no
in
wonder
August
I
you
was
got married.
thinking that way.
Yep.
So anyway, by
you
the
were
time
just trying to get to your wife, man.
Yeah. But I of course pitched the idea to Brody, and it turned into a comedy. It's sure, but what if?
Well, I had at the time I kept going on and on. I was like, I just have this cinematic vision and actor vision of doing a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Bad Boys for Life.
Yes.
And I had been waiting to do some sort of I was like, like we have our
Buddy
dynamic.
cop is the dynamic.
Buddy cop is like what we do. Like, let's actually do buddy cop.
Yeah.
You know? And so you were like, well, I had this time loop idea. And so we just married the two.
Right. Which we were advised not to do, which honestly, I feel like we get that feedback a lot.
What, advise just not
like,
to do stuff?
Yeah. And
Sure. I mean, anybody who's creative and has like ideas, there's going to be people, I'm looking at the camera because for the people listening, there's going to be people who naturally will tell you things aren't a good idea or that you're not going to be able to accomplish it or, all that stuff, right? And a lot of them, there aren't people who are like necessarily hating on you. Like I know people are like, oh, the haters. You might have some haters, but a lot of times they're trying to prevent you from
embarrassing yourself.
Right. But there is some value in trusting your gut, and there's some value in just not letting those doubts hold you back from making stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same idea of like the equipment.
I had a ton of fun with Loop.
We had a blast, and I think it's probably one of the best things that came out of Take Two, and you've said that as well. And blending those two ideas worked wonderfully.
Yeah. And if you want to stand out, you got to be able to do stuff that other people aren't willing to do. And I think Loop was one of those things.
Even on set, our like crew didn't understand the film.
Right.
Like while we were making the film, like on set, we knew, and so that's all we needed.
Yeah. I'm going to brush over the production of this quickly because it's important. So I want to get to it, but I'll try to do it as quick as I can. We had one day to shoot
our big project, right?
This, I'm looking at the time right now, 26 minutes and 22-second project. One day. For reference, Brody, what did you spend on the feature film that you just worked on?
We spent, I think, 3.5 weeks.
For how many pages or how long to days?
So basically, it's the shooting a 30-minute project in one day is just unspeakable. That's at least a week or two.
Usually, you're spending one day on like 4 pages.
Like TV shows spend a week to shoot.
Yeah.
There's your example, a full week, and full days too.
Yeah.
Full days for a full week, and we did it in one day.
Yeah, and this is definitely more comparable to like a sitcom kind of like shooting style.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, this is a production kind of challenge for me, and so I kind of just sunk my teeth in, and I was like, okay, what we're gonna do is, we have the advantage of a time loop, so we have the same locations. And we want them to look the same, so we're going to keep the same camera locations and so less setups in general.
Yep.
But we're going to shoot multiple scenes.
Right. So it's the same because it's the same scene, right? Because they're reliving the same day. So let's keep the setup. We would walk in. We would say all of our lines.
Yep.
Lovely guy who we brought out. I can't remember his name right now. What was his name? Who played the cop at the scene, the detective at the scene that we met with? Weasley. Who played Weasley? What was his name? Do you remember?
Jonathan Yang? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah. If that was his name.
We're really diving into actor Facebook groups. That's another
Yeah, and so we reached out. He came out. He had a great time. It's on his reel. It's on his acting reel. And we played I remember that I'm saying this one specifically because this is the one scene that I remember we did.
Yes.
Time and time and time again. We did like 4 versions.
It's the same interaction, but they're different scenes. In the film, they're different scenes.
They're different dialogue sets, and each one we know more. And it was so fun, and we understood what we were doing. But I remember camera guys like, wait, but how is this going to work, So you were right. And we went to each set location, and we filmed, 3 or 4 versions.
Yep.
So
out of each setup, we're essentially getting multiple scenes, which is how we're able to pull it off. But super fun. And then we got access to a golf course, and then our location for
golf cart on the golf course, all that stuff.
So many good things that came together for that film. It was just a lot of fun, and honestly, maybe an idea we revisit in the future. Potentially.
It might be. We just both love that concept so much. But the other thing we got from that was we ordered those cop uniforms.
Yes.
So we assembled and created our own cop uniforms that we have now used many times. In other films. So
and that was also shot on Blackmagic. Seek was also shot on Red. I'd like to mention that.
Yeah, Seek was shot on Red because it was shot at school, and we have I was studying film.
Yeah,
so
we had watch more of that on the BTS video for sure.
Yes, which we also dropped that year.
Yeah.
We started doing throwbacks soon after. And I don't
We're
remember if
like, we have all these old projects.
Yeah.
We worked on them together.
Yeah.
So they kind of fit for take two.
It's
and they
us.
were big concept ideas.
Yeah.
Which also was very much take two. So yeah, we dropped some of those. Story of Brothers was one that we worked on with our friends. And
When you put that together, it doesn't really make sense probably to a lot of people, but I
Right.
think knowing the story behind making that, like, it made me like almost tear up
Right.
when I watched
it
the edit.
is super meaningful to us.
It was super meaningful to us, and we spent a lot of time in the cold and like making that together.
And there was so much. We had the whole thing scripted out, probably feature length.
Yes,
I don't know
yeah.
how
I mean, it
long
was-
the
it
actual
was
project.
long.
Probably maybe more like 40 pages or so. But
Yeah.
yeah, we had the whole vision for it. But this is the stuff that we got done, and
Mm-hmm.
the footage I had access to. So I just pieced together what I could. Catching up, we already talked about that one. Scavenger was one that
Scavenger's
did
one we might
on the
come.
tail end of Brody's senior year.
So it was kind of over the summer before I went to college, and I remember
Yeah.
thinking, we'll just do another Spider-Man, no problem.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how to write.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man was all based. The writing was
Or
done.
how to run a set.
Or how to run a set.
Yeah.
We knew. I mean, it was pretty bad in terms of just like.
But we got some cool looking footage, and I didn't want it to go to waste.
Yeah, we got
so
a couple of cool scenes. So you can see a couple of those scenes that we actually got shot, and that takes us kind of to year
3.
year 3.
Yep.
So, honestly, we had 4 projects for year 3, if you
Yeah.
include Hostage.
Yeah.
Right. So, we are honestly our big one for that summer was Hostage.
Was Hostage.
Situation, but that was a 1-day shoot. We did Exonerate, which was just a movie trailer.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to practice doing conceptual movie trailers, right? So it's a trailer for a movie that doesn't exist.
Yep.
We did Dumb Cops, and we did Checkmate and Hostage Situation.
Yep.
And Dumb Cops, we did, once again, returning to the buddy cop dynamic that I love to write. It's just one of my favorite genres to watch and to write. And did that with a friend of mine, Matthew Rahman, who's an absolute legend. And we did that in the winter. So if my hands look white and and my nose looks red,
you mean?
yeah. If I'm turning blue,
Yeah.
it's because it was freezing cold, and we were in a house,
Yeah.
with no
Yeah.
no
we
air.
We literally just got access to an empty house, like
And-
that was on the market, I think.
Yes.
To be sold, and
Yep.
so I mean, a great shooting location
Great
for a last
location,
minute. Like,
yeah.
we just needed it for an evening.
It was so last minute of everything.
That was first time working with John Young.
First time working with Jonathan Young, which we'll probably be working a lot more with in the future. Good, has become one of my best friends. And first time ever working with one of my friends, Bree from college, who agreed to act in that the day it was being shot.
Yeah.
I had texted every woman that I know.
For some of you listeners, listening how we produce some of this content would probably stress you out and give you serious anxiety.
It would, but not me.
But it was oddly fun for us. And so
There was something satisfying for me to pull something together, like to pull something out of my butt and have you be like, okay. Like
Yeah.
to have you be like, we don't have a plan. How are we going to do it? I'm like, we're going to do it. Just let me
Yeah.
take care of it. Or vice versa sometimes.
and then I was like, okay, fine. I'll show up. I'll be there.
yeah.
But
And we didn't have our actress, and she plays a huge
Yeah.
part in the story. And she answered the call.
Yeah.
Bree answered the call that day.
And that was I think our first one where I used all of my own equipment. Like I finally had equipment.
You brought
my
everything out.
Blackmagic gimbal.
You
Those
provided.
were my lights. I mean, it wasn't lit well, but
It was a tough scene to shoot in terms of visually. Ethan, you were in it.
Yeah,
And
so I couldn't really
you
help
couldn't
behind
really
the
help
camera.
behind the camera. John Young shot it. He had never shot probably on Blackmagic before. We were shooting quick. We only had 4 hours or something.
Yeah.
For a 6.5 minute,
quick and dirty.
7-minute film. So, but I have great memory. I needed that.
Yeah.
At that time, I just remember I really wanted to act in something, hadn't acted in a while, and I wanted to do something funny, and I wanted to do something with my friend Ramen.
Yeah.
And it happened, and I got to do it, and it made me so happy. And even making that memory with Bree, we got closer as friends and that sort of thing. So that was fun. And then summer rolled around, and Ethan was really busy. We were both busy this summer. I mean, just very busy. And it was we were both feeling that tension and that strain of like, how much longer can we make these fun videos, make memories? We were having a great time, but we couldn't it wasn't going to make sense anymore to not be making any money and to be spending money to, for you to leave your family, like to leave your wife for extended amounts of time, and, for me to set aside time and like to do this for free, right? So I still was like, okay, I have some time while you were busy. And I was like, I think, that same motto of just because you're not available doesn't mean I should be sitting around itching to make something and not just make something. Just do it.
Yeah.
So I asked a friend of mine, Elliot, who's a fantastic cinematographer, if he wanted to do something together. And he was like, you know what? I'm kind of doing like a statewide like tour at that time. I can stop at your place on that tour and we'll make something and then I'll continue on my way. And I was like, great. So that's when we made Exonerate. That was that movie trailer. My intent was, let's just get the coolest, prettiest looking
on Brody's but
shots. But
Black
yes,
Magic,
on my Black
his
Magic,
own
which I had
camera
gotten
now.
my own camera finally. So we did Exonerate together. He brought lenses from the cage. So he went to Huntington University as well. So I knew Elliot. And that was a lot of fun just for us to hang out and get a bunch of people involved. Lizzie Helser back in action, answered the call again. Jonathan back in action. And that was fun on the standpoint of our locations were purely based on what's the coolest place we can think of. Yeah. We doubled a high school office for a prison in that trailer. We bought a prison jumpsuit. All kinds of fun stuff, right?
If you're wondering, I leave Brody with all the props after the end of the project. I'm like, you hang on to these, I'll hang on to the gear.
Yep. That's exactly it. So I have cop uniforms, handcuffs, detective badges, swords. I have all kinds of wigs and crazy stuff at my house, all strewn throughout my spare room at my house. And then our one that we really we thought was kind of our ode to Take Two that summer was Checkmate.
Yeah. This was the one that was truly Take Two-esque.
Yes.
And so, even though it's a shorter film, it's 7 minutes and 30 seconds, it's very much us and something we wanted to do. And I think, was this my idea?
Yes. Yeah. You wrote this. You wrote it, and I helped with some dialogue probably here or there. But yeah.
I wanted to do, cinematic version of just over the top and kind of playing into parody a little bit. Didn't think about that just now, but
a little bit of all those fun adventure movies.
Pirates of the Caribbean mainly was the big inspiration.
Zorro and all those fun big movies.
But just, big fluffy sleeves and swords and running down hills and nature. And
we had covered most of those big fun genres with Take Two, and that was one that we hadn't done yet.
So this was, we have to do this kind of film. So Checkmate was fun. I was growing out my hair, and I was like, perfect time. I don't know how long that was going to last. So,
and it was one of the first times I was stuck behind the camera.
Right. Because now we 100% would have had you on the other end of my sword blade.
Yes. We wanted this to be a classic Brody and Ethan duel.
Brody had been struggling with a lot of
head injuries,
concussion-related stuff.
Yep.
And was still needing to take it easy, and so it just was not a good idea to have him
in a sword
those
fight.
stunts. So Jonathan, our honorary third member of Take Two,
that's
stepped up to the plate.
He's our man.
And we traveled all over the country for this.
The globe. We globe-trotted over.
If you haven't watched it,
Cleveland,
do me a favor and watch it. It's super fun.
Columbus.
But we started out. You guys came to my place, right? Mm-hmm. Spent the night.
Yep. Jordan. Spent the night at your place.
Another guy who we could not have done all these videos without Jordan, probably.
Checkmate is another one for me that I remember every day. It's implanted in my head. I remember it was a memory making experience.
So that kind of went up to legend status immediately for us. But and then we shot up in Madison, Ohio at the camp actually my wife grew up on, Stony Glen. Yep. And I got married there actually. Yep. So it's just a special place for me. Yeah. We went swimming in that waterfall the night before my wedding.
Yep.
So
the things I did for you for your wedding.
Yeah. You'll be fine. You have memories because of it.
I do.
You're welcome, actually.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
So it was just super fun. And just running down the hills and we just had a blast making that. Anjali ran audio, despite her, her best wishes.
I know. She's standing in the cold water. Like, it started to get pretty cool,
Yeah.
guys. By the time we got to the water
She's
scenes,
not tall either. She's
that was evening.
5'2".
She's 5'2".
So she was like up to her like chest, like, and she's holding a boom pole while Jonathan and I are just like
freezing
fighting
cold
each other in this waterfall.
And we bought underwater housing.
Yeah, for my camera.
And we used that to do that.
I said we're putting your camera underwater.
You were like, if we're going to risk anyone's camera, it's going to be yours. And I was like, okay.
Full send.
I was like, it was fair to me because you are the gearhead. Like, I was like, you're right. You care more than I do. Let's put my camera in the sketchy, cheap underwater housing that we could afford. Yeah.
An advanced plastic bag. And then hostage. You know, I know.
Yeah.
We'll probably have to split this podcast up.
We probably will have to do a two-parter. That's okay.
Hostage. Again, I don't know by the time this podcast drops where we're at with hostage situation. But boy, is it a beast. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, personally. Like, if we're talking mentally and kind of like how Take Two kind of phased out, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah.
I broke. I snapped under all the pressure that Take Two was accumulating for
your life,
a hobby.
Yeah.
Like, it was demanding too much.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision. Am I serious about this enough to make it my career? Mm-hmm. Or is it a hobby?
There was a lot of tension. Yeah. I think on both of us at that time. I didn't want to give up the Take Two thing because I was still in school and I was just kind of like, these are my summers, man. This is like what I look forward to, is what I love doing. And I remember hearing that and knowing he was right. I remember, hearing it. I knew you were right.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what the answer was.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the future was going to be. I didn't know.
And I like the idea of that, but it just couldn't be that. Because
we both
say
loved
all of
it.
this,
Yeah.
like we made these projects, but it was not easy. Like you would just come up with an idea. Let's just shoot it. I just want to make something.
Yeah.
Okay, man. But like, there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yep.
And a lot of times
producing
the technical stuff,
hours.
I was directly responsible for.
Yep. Cameras and audio
and I have to show people how to use that stuff because we're using unexperienced crew.
People. Yep.
So like that was kind of where we were at with Take Two.
And Hostage was, in speaking about why this project in particular was probably the one that made you just feel so stressed out. Dumb Cops, okay, one night, couple hours, right? 4, 5, 6 hours. Hostage was an all-day affair. It was at a warehouse. We were in public. We had to contact the police because we were going to have guns in public. So airsoft guns. So we had to let them know that
they're not real guns.
That they're not real, and that we were going to be running around a warehouse. So we had permission to be at.
Yeah.
And that, and we also wanted the cops to come out that day.
Yeah.
So we had cops coming out. We had hired a large group of airsoft enthusiasts, 2 different groups of airsoft enthusiasts to come out, bring all their gear, and be in the film because we needed a SWAT team, and we needed a gunman to be bad guys.
Yep.
We hired just tons of people from Facebook groups to come out. I mean, we worked with more new people than we'd ever worked with before, ever, on anything.
Which they were probably equally the most passionate about film people that we've ever worked with.
Yes, which was refreshing in a way.
Right. We're asking them to come out and spend 12, 14-hour day in an unair-conditioned warehouse with us to get this thing done in a day.
Even during the day, I was unsure of how long we would have certain people.
Right.
I was directing it and producing it with you. And I mean, there was that stress of like, I'm like making phone calls like on the day. I remember I left to get lunch that day, which was a mistake, like without telling anyone.
Yeah.
It was a very like stressful environment.
But it was pretty darn close without any money. It was like our closest experience to a real set. That we were producing, that we were running the show.
We were running. And I think that's what it gave us a little taste of what it takes.
You were directing,
yes.
I was DPing for like the first time in the roles that we just clearly had our lane and that we wanted to be in.
Yep.
And therefore, Brody had all of that responsibility of directing.
Yes.
I had all the responsibility behind the camera.
Yep. The problem was that we were producing it and that we didn't have any money. And so we were relying on these free favors. And so we were both stressed about the producing side throughout the day. You're coming to me on breaks, Brody, what's her face has to leave in an hour.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be here for later scenes. We're supposed to shoot, like, what are we supposed to do? And we're just making creative decisions on the fly. Well, maybe she gets shot.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shoot it that way.
A piece of dialogue to fix the problem.
It's where we met Jarrell.
Yep.
Jarrell Pyro Johnson, who's in Black Panther too, by the way. So what a guy. And a host of other people, right? And we, I already said that we had talked with, about working with more new people than ever. But I think for us, that was a really good experience to what it's like to work with people who aren't our friends on set.
Yeah.
Because we had interesting personalities.
Other enthusiasts.
Yeah. We had fun, big personalities on set. And
But very different.
But very different from what we were used to experiencing. And so managing that was also new. And I think we got the taste of this could be fun if we were doing this as a career. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is fun, but this is too much for.
And actually, that project, it was a lot. It was a lot of last minute stuff. We pulled off the project, the production. It was when we began to move into post.
Yeah.
It was so sloppily. I mean, sloppily as in, like, we got the stuff. We got good audio. We got good images. And
we didn't slate anything.
Our scenes, yeah. But it's a nightmare to go through all of that at the end of the day. All of our audio is just audio on a Zoom recorder.
And to this day, to the day we're recording this, we have not put that film together because of that.
Yeah. It's an overwhelming task.
It's an overwhelming task. And we both felt that way. We've both tried.
Yeah.
We've been passing it, the baton, back and forth, making tiny bits of progress. And then like on top of the work that we're doing now, it just feels, so hard. So, that project was like, when it's all said and done, it'll feel like a classic, take two project that is probably a little more elevated, honestly, than a lot of our stuff. New faces, probably more cinematic because you were just in charge of camera work and we had nice lenses that day. Steadicam, gimbal, so it's going to be a good film in some regards, appearance-wise and stuff. But even like, I remember trying to find a warehouse and I think the feelings that we both had of how hard it was getting to do on like no budget and making nothing on the back end affected our passion for the producing of it as well.
Yes.
Because I remember it didn't feel, neither one of us were giddy.
Right.
Like we usually had been about finding fun locations and stuff. And I remember talking to you on the phone and you just so stressed.
Yeah.
We went to McDonald's one day, I remember, when we were looking through, and that was probably the best day we had in terms of producing, where we like looked through all the actors we had, we reached out, and that like process started. And that was exciting at the time.
Yeah.
But it got overwhelming for you. You were working a full-time job and you were also trying to have conversations with like 30 different people.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I was running a new business at the time too. Like
running a new business.
I'm doing weddings at this point.
Weddings, working at Small Nation.
Yeah.
And
newly married. I mean, like
newly married. Yeah.
It was just a lot of life stuff. It just didn't make sense. It was demanding too much of me to be just a hobby. So that's why Take Two kind of reached this point. Is that, are we serious about it or are we done with it? And I don't think either of us really got to the point where like, okay, being done was not really a real option. Yeah. But we knew something had to change. Yeah. And I think I was the one who like called it out, but like we both were feeling it. And we knew we had to change something.
And I think you were probably relieved to hear me say you're right.
Yeah.
Because I remember you had that, and I heard it out loud, and I was like, yeah, I know. Like there was something in me that knew, like, obviously we're not going to be free spirited, like just
kids anymore.
Kids, yeah, we can't act like kids over the summer anymore.
Right.
And like that was hard for me to say goodbye to that. Like, as podcasts are, goodbye, to Take Two.
Getting emotional at the end of this podcast.
I know. But it was true. I mean, like, that's the perfect way to, I think, sum up Take Two is like saying goodbye was hard. Like, because it was so fun. Like, the memories and the summer, like the friends. Yeah. And like film has brought us both experiences that we never would have had
Right.
without it.
That's the reason I like video as a career, film, video, whatever in general, is you just get to do cool stuff.
You meet new people, you go to cool places. It's like a way of celebrating the world around you all the time, and it's great.
So in summation, it was take two.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to make this and just give it the due respect that it deserves.
It deserves its
we are
own
passionate about
podcast.
what we created, while also being aware, you know, of what it was. You know, not trying for it to be more than what it was, but super thankful for that experience. It was super pivotal for both of us, I think. But I also want to say, I want to leave this on a positive note and say we're not done with that stuff by any means.
Correct. Yeah. So, as we move into like Mark Rodney Productions, and we have a video branch and a film branch.
Yeah.
And part of our film branch will be continuing to make fun, small form content.
Right.
With the aim that it is more professional, and with the aim that it'll do better on its platforms.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I don't think that I could go through my life without writing comedy sketches.
Yeah.
And I think that you and I both enjoy that process. So, you know, speaking of which, at the time we're recording this podcast, we are preparing, and we will spend some time today preparing for a spoof movie trailer.
Yeah.
About Roger from 101 Dalmatians. So the fun continues.
Yeah. But we created space for it and it made sense in our lives as far as like this needs to make money for us in order for us to continue. You know, and also creating more YouTube type content for YouTube.
And
you know,
more
if
film
we're,
content for
if we were even
movies.
going down the serious YouTube path, we weren't doing it right.
No.
It was
We always
merely
said-
to get our stuff in front of people in the easiest way.
We always said that our goal was to just make whatever we wanted to make, and YouTube was just the place that was available to us to put it.
Right. So, and if we can make any money at all from YouTube, that's a win. So, I mean, thank you for watching these videos, and that's why it's important to us that you are checking out links, or that that's one way you can support us without directly giving us money, which is crazy. And I love that I'm passionate that that's a way that you can do business in today's world.
Watch our stuff.
Right.
Click our links.
Yeah. So thank you for doing that. That's the reason we're making more YouTube type content now, so that we can, you know, monetize that source and our time there, while also using it as, you know, the same way that Take Two was used, in the sense of exploring new ideas, and practicing cinematography, directing, performing, things like that. So, and
Take Two gave me a heck of an acting reel.
yeah, for sure. So that's kind of where we're at. That's how Take Two lives on in Mark Rodney Productions.
Correct.
So.
And I think that like initial energy that we both have, that like passion, that we knew it was like Take Two was like coming to an end, is like we've been reinvigorated with that passion, moving it into a lane where it makes more sense. And I think it's been really like healthy and good for both of us to be like, we're back to being just pumped, I think, about what we're doing. So
I agree. Well, thank you for listening.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Of,
if you listen to part 1 and part 2 back to back, you've been on an emotional ride, and we appreciate you going on that journey.
Yeah. But I think you can sense, hopefully, how important that this stuff is to us, and that we're passionate about it going forward as well. But thanks for listening, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, or follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, however you're listening to it. But we got other stuff to get to today.
So in case we don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.